What's up, what's going on, legends? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm bringing you guys the mission guide for Tier 4, the Black Mous Faction. This guy is going to have 7 total missions. Out of the first 6, you have to complete 5 of them in order to unlock the final one. And once you complete that guy, you will unlock the last and final tier, which is Tier 5. Now, before we dive into it, if you guys do enjoy this content anytime or find this video helpful in any way, make sure to show your support for the channel by going down below and smash that like button. Go ahead and throw an easy goal of 100 likes on today's video, as well as if you'd like to find your way back to the channel for more Call of Duty content, make sure you just hit that subscribe button alongside that notification bell so we don't miss you in future videos. All right, so first up, we have Paper Shredder. This guy's going to be a 3-parter. Part 1's asking you to extract 8 Al-Qatala planning diagrams. Now, the planning diagrams are fairly large in size. They are typically dropped by killing enemies, but mostly found in filing cabinets. Now, these are actually quite annoying to find. I spent quite a bit of time actually collecting these because they are just so much more rare than some of the other items in the game. I did go to locations which I found filing cabinets to be pretty frequent in, which was the resupply areas. Anywhere that you see like a little resupply icon, typically the buildings like that do have at least 2 to 3 filing cabinets, so make sure you're checking those when you're there, because that was my best luck, was just looking in the filing cabinets to find these. On a very rare occasion did I actually find them on the ground or anywhere else for that matter. I think it is possible to find it on shelves, but the only time that I actually did find one on a shelf, it actually appeared invisible, so it's likely you're going to be overlooking those. I will say though, one location I was pretty successful on finding a few of these was actually in the chemical building over at the quarry, which is locked via a key. However, if you do manage to have that key, you guys can obviously check in there, and maybe you'll get lucky just like I was. Part 2 is going to be a lot easier, but it is very similar. It's asking you to extract 8 Al-Qatala planning photos. These are way more common. In a single match, I found up to 4 or 5 of these just by looting through buildings and even looking in similar places to the diagrams, such as the filing cabinets. I was able to find those in there as well. But most of the time I did find them on shelves, wooden ones or the metal shelves that were found around the map. These were quite consistent, and again, something you can find on enemies as well, but these are overall not too big of an issue to find. Part 3 is asking you to extract 4 pieces of Black Mous intel. This is actually something you already have done in the past. You just needed 2. They're going to be found in the buildings. I stick to the outskirts of Rohan Oil because Rohan Oil is exactly where you have to be to find these, but I was able to find actually 4 of these in a single run just by kind of looting around Rohan Oil and looking on the shelves. You guys will not miss them. They're like similar to the documents. Only difference is it will say Black Mous intel whenever you're hovering over them. Now, next up, we have Harmful Ways. This guy's going to be 1-parter, and it's actually kind of a pain. That's going to kill 35 enemies with a suppressed designated marksman rifle with headshots at Zaya Observatory at a range of less than 3 meters. So basically, you have to get point-blank kills with a marksman rifle with the suppressor on it, and it's not going to be easy whatsoever, as Zaya Observatory tends to have quite a few armored individuals. But the main goal here will be to go up there with a squad. Make sure you bring a ton of plates so that way you're well set up for success. And you're going to want to just run at the enemies, get as close as possible, and essentially try to quick scope them in the head. If you manage to knock enemies down, you can run up to them, and it will make easy work of this because you'll be able to obviously just aim at the head real close up, and they're not going to really shoot you too much except for with a pistol. But I also was very successful by stunning the enemies, running up and just being able to aim at their head and shoot them. This will take a little bit of time. I definitely recommend using the TAC-M, as I was pretty successful with it, but I did find success with the SPR as well. Overall, I don't think this will take you guys too long. It's just going to be a matter of getting close enough to the enemies. Don't push your luck, though, because you will get taken out quickly and have to return all the way back to this area. It will likely take you a couple of matches, but if you're lucky, you guys will be able to complete this in 1. Next up, we have Eye in the Sky. This is going to be a 1-parter, and it's not overall that difficult. You just have to do a couple of things in order to make it a bit easier. It's asking you to loot 5 airplane supply drops in 1 deployment. If you guys haven't noticed by now, at a certain point in the match, 3 supply drops get dropped via airplane, and they're going to be on the map. This accounts for about 60% of the amount you need. I found the best way to do this was to go in immediately, go hit a SAM turret. My SAM turret managed to obviously shoot 1 plane down, which dropped an airdrop, and I think it even managed to shoot a second one down. I was kind of confused whether it was mine that shot it down or there was another team that called one in and they shot one down. But either way, 2 SAM turret drops came in. I went and visited both of those locations, and then I went to the 3 supply drops dropped by the plane later in the match. It's important to note whether or not somebody else has looted it is not relevant. All you have to do is go to the supply drop itself, open it up, and even if you don't take anything from inside or someone has taken all the items, this still will count towards your progress. Once you've gotten 5 supply drops in a single match, this part will be complete. It's also important to note that the commander helo will also drop a supply drop this does count for this as well. Next up, we have Silent and Deadly. This guy is going to be a two-parter. Part one's asking you to kill 50 enemies with a suppressed Fennec 45 with a Fennec double tap mod attached. Now, of course, you want to make sure you have a suppressor on and then equip the double tap mod. The hard part about this only is the fact that the double tap mod makes it 2-round burst and it only has a magazine size of 12. So obviously when you're fighting bots, with the weaker bots, I was able to one burst them in the head as long as they hit my shots. And with the stronger guys, it was more like a 2 to 3 burst. But again, even at 3 bursts, that's 6 bullets, that's half your magazine. So it is pretty tricky if you get overwhelmed by enemies, and can be a little bit frustrating because you will have to continuously reload in order to get your eliminations. And then obviously if you switch weapons, it won't count. So you're going to want to be able to utilize the Fennec in every single elimination that you can go for. That way you guys can get this wiped out pretty quickly. I didn't find it too hard to find 50 enemies, as it could be anywhere on the map, unlike some of the other challenges. So make sure you guys pick and choose those weaker enemies, and you guys will be set up for success. Part 2 is going to be a little bit more challenging, however. It's asking you to kill 21 enemies with melee. I found the best way to go about this was to equip the throwing knife, because it allowed me to have 2 different weapons without actually equipping a knife. I don't really like gun butting the enemies, it's kind of a pain. But allowing me to have the throwing knife equipped made it to where instead of gun butting them when I had my weapon out, it was actually still stabbing them with a knife. Overall, making this challenge quite a bit easier. Another thing that I found that was really helpful for this was to run the stuns. That way I was able to stun a group of enemies and just run up and chop them up with my knife. I was able to do 4 or 5 enemies in a row without taking too much damage. Obviously I had a teammate with me. Solo, you're going to want to be a little bit more cautious, but you should be able to plow through quite a few melee hits on the weaker enemies. I definitely don't recommend going for any of the armored guys, as that could lead to a lot more issue. Next up, we have the golden rule. This guy is going to be 2 parts. Part 1 is asking you to deliver 20 gold bars to the dumpster dead drop southeast of Allstream Pass. This is going to be that junkyard dead drop, if you guys are familiar with it from the other videos. And of course, I will show it on the map whenever I get the chance to. The gold bars are actually not quite as rare. I had better luck finding gold bars than I did the planning diagrams from the earlier challenge. Gold bars are kind of common in a few different places. One of the best places I recommend looking is the Sawa Hotel, as you can climb on top of it and enter both 302 and 303. Both of these have the potential of having gold bars in them. And honestly, in some cases, I think I found 3 or 4 between the 2 rooms in a single run, making it fairly easy to actually acquire these. And then once you get access to those, or you have enough of them in your inventory, you're going to want to make sure you beeline it over to the junkyard, dead drop these. Once you've delivered 20 of them, this part will be complete. Part 2 is going to be a little bit less common, and it's going to ask you to deliver 13 gold skulls to the dumpster dead drop southeast of Allstream Pass. Again, junkyard dead drop. Skulls are going to be a lot more rare though. I did find them pretty consistently by looking through supply drops, looking in the Sawa Hotel in room 302 and 303. If you have keys, I definitely recommend going over to the chemical building at Quarry, because I was pretty lucky a few times and able to find 2 gold skulls in that particular building. Overall, I had better luck again with the 13 skulls than I did the diagrams, which just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. However, once you are able to capture 13 gold skulls, and anytime you get these, I recommend taking them straight to the junkyard, as they are a lot more rare. You're going to dead drop these. Once you've done it with 13 of them, this part will be complete. Next up, we have Bullfighter. This one's going to be a 2-parter, and it's actually one of the easiest overall to complete in this specific tier. Part 1's asking you to kill 30 stronghold guards. From my understanding, this should be anybody that's actually inside of a stronghold, or anyone that's guarding it, whether they're on top of it or not. Any enemies in the area of the stronghold, or inside of it, I should say, are going to count towards this. Once you clear a few strongholds, which you will probably do to finish part 2 anyways, you should be able to wipe this out fairly quickly. I would just recommend jumping in and going from stronghold to stronghold and just eliminating any of the enemies inside or clearing them. Part 2 is going to be a little bit more challenging. It's asking you to execute 7 AQ soldiers wielding riot shields. But remember, before I said you'll be moving from stronghold to stronghold anyway to get the 30 stronghold guards. You'll need to go to at least 4 strongholds, maybe more depending on your luck, to execute the 7 soldiers it's asking. Essentially, you just need to perform the finishing move by going up behind them and holding the melee attack. The best way to go about this, of course, is to stun the riot shielders, as they will kind of just stand in place, allowing you to run up behind them, perform that finishing move. There are, again, 2 per stronghold, at least that I found, so I was able to at least rack these up pretty quickly. and I didn't find it too challenging as long as I eliminated the other enemies around. And if you obviously have teammates, they can kind of help you out as well. Make sure no one shoots the riot shielder though, because you're going to want to make sure you execute them. That way you don't have to visit as many strongholds. But once you get 7 of these guys executed, this part will be completed. Now next up, we have our last and final mission, which is breaking and entering. This is going to be a 3-parter, and it's unlocked by obviously completing 5 of the previous 6 missions we just went over. Part 1's asking you to travel to the sewer under Albagra Fortress. Now, this isn't as straightforward as it could be. Essentially, what it's asking you to do is enter Albagra underground, and you're going to need a key to do this. So if you don't have a key available by just running around and finding one, you're going to need to rack up 30,000 and then go and visit each of the buy stations until you find the right shop or buy station that has the Albagra Fortress key. I definitely recommend, if it takes you a while to actually acquire the key during a run, make sure you exfil with that key and then just restart the run, because the other part of this may not be as easy and you're going to want to utilize having as much time as possible. Now part 2 is where things get quite a bit more challenging. Now that you're in Albagra Underground, it's asking you to reroute the 7 security devices in under 4 minutes to unlock the system architecture's container. So you will have a very short time period. I believe the time starts as the moment you open the door, but I'm not 100% positive on this. It could actually be when you activate the first one. However, in my first run doing this, I actually ran short on time because I was just getting bombarded by enemies and I only had one other teammate with me. I definitely recommend running in a squad because this place is extremely unforgiving, and I definitely do not think it will be an easy task to do this solo. So what you're going to essentially need to do is, once you enter the Albagra Underground, you're going to want to stay on the left side pretty much the entire way. Anytime you can take a left turn, you're going to want to take the left turn in order to keep yourself in a sort of pattern. That way you guys will avoid missing any of these reroute spots. The reroute spots are like little electrical boxes on the wall. Unfortunately, there's not like a very obvious interact thing with it. There's just essentially a little black dot that shows up. You guys might be familiar with this from previous missions, but you will essentially walk up to it, hit your interact button, and you'll know that it worked because it'll start tallying up on your progress that you're doing it. Now you'll need to do this in under 4 minutes. So you're going to want to move quickly, and you're also going to want to move quickly for the simple fact that enemies continually come in from the front door as you're in here, and they're all tier 3s. So you're going to want to move fast. Again, any left turn you can take, make a left turn. Obviously, if you guys follow the video, it'll be a little bit easier, but this one's kind of tough to mark it out. I'll try to include the map that I know is out there for the specific locations, but I found it just easier instead of following a map that just anytime you can take a left, count these guys as you go, and by the time you hit the other side, essentially you will have completed all of them or found all of the 7 locations. Once you've activated all 7 and rerouted the security system, you will then go to the center location where the little pool of water is, and it will have a chest in the bottom. You will basically loot this chest, and you're looking for the documents inside of it. Once you get this, part 2 is essentially complete. Now, part 3 is a little bit easier than part 2. However, it can be frustrating if you manage to die on this part. It's asking you to loot and extract the system architecture documentation. So that document that you found in the chest after rerouting all the 7 spots is going to be very, very important. You're going to need to obviously capture that, and you're going to want to go to your quickest and safest exfil, because you do not want to die with this and have to repeat this process. Sometimes you get lucky and there's an exfil straight outside of the underground. I was not fortunate enough to have that luck in the run where I was successful in acquiring the documentation, but I did have to travel a little bit. And luckily for me, I was able to eliminate the only enemy I ran across while trying to exfil, and I exfilled safely. Now that's going to be all the missions for Black Mous Tier 4, which will definitely unlock Tier 5 for you, which is the final tier of this faction. Hopefully this helps you guys on your journey. That's going to wrap things up for us here, though. Thank you guys for all the support in today's video, all the support in the channel, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the next one. Peace.